All right, guys, what's going on? Levi Trumbull reporting. So we have a major update as it relates to Frederick County's largest criminal trial. Now, technically, it doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of Frederick County. It is a federal case, so it's being heard in the federal court of Baltimore. And as you guys probably can guess, it is none other than United States of America versus Charles Jenkins, the Frederick County Sheriff, and Robert Krop, who is the owner of the Machine Gun Nest, a gun range here in Frederick County, Maryland. So we actually now have trial dates in both of these cases, that being for Chuck Jenkins, the sheriff, and Robert Krop. So if you guys are unfamiliar, I'm sure most of you are probably not, but for those, maybe someone out there is, we'll just do a quick rundown. Back April 5th, 2023, Robert Krop and Chuck Jenkins were both indicted for what the indictment reads as 5 counts of conspiracy and making false statements to illegally acquire machine guns. Now, how that took place allegedly was that Chuck Jenkins, who is the sheriff for Frederick County, signed law letters and submitted those law letters to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And he signed these law letters in order for Robert Krop to be able to obtain machine guns. Now, in the law letter, these machine guns that were going to be acquired by Robert Krop's business were supposed to be acquired for the purpose of doing a demonstration for the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. So Robert Krop's business was supposed to get these illegal machine guns and use those machine guns for demonstration purposes for the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. So it was supposed to be a collaboration effort. However, what is alleged is that those machine guns, those illegal machine guns, were being used to rent out to people at the Machine Gun Nest, this gun range. So rather than doing what would be lawful, it is alleged that these machine guns were being rented out and people were having, a grand time in Frederick at this gun range, firing off illegal machine guns. You can't do that. So that's where the problem came in, and both of these men were subsequently indicted for that alleged conduct. So with that, let's just get right into the breaking news. Like I said, we have trial dates. This has been going on since April. There have been a lot of motions, a lot of paperwork filed. Obviously, a federal case is a very big deal. The trial for Robert Krop, who is the co-owner of the local shooting range, the Machine Gun Nest, he is scheduled to begin his trial on December 9th, 2024, so that is this year, and that trial is supposed to last 8 days. Now, for Chuck Jenkins' trial, Sheriff Jenkins' trial, that is scheduled to begin on January 27th, 2025. So about this time next year is when Chuck Jenkins is expected to have his trial on these matters. Here's something else that's interesting, though. So one of the things that I wanted to make note of was that in December, a federal judge granted a motion to dismiss one of the counts in the indictment and part of another. Again, this is for Chuck Jenkins' indictment, not Robert Krop's, but for Chuck Jenkins' indictment, one of the charges and a portion of the other charge was dismissed by the federal judge, and she ordered that the prosecutors had to actually file a new indictment against Chuck Jenkins that reflected proper charges against him. And then after that happened, there was actually a letter filed in December from prosecutors, and I want to read some of this to you guys verbatim. But prosecutors said that Jenkins' trial could be affected based on the outcome of Robert Krop's trial. So that's interesting. That sort of calls into question how well of a foundation prosecutors have against Chuck Jenkins. And one of the things that is notable about that is that they say that if Krop were to be acquitted, if he were to go to trial in December and be acquitted, this letter says that there is, quote, a distinct possibility that prosecutors would consider dropping Chuck Jenkins' charges. That is interesting. Guys, I have said this for quite some time. I believe I even said this in the original video that I did back when the indictment dropped. I said that there could be a lot of egg on a lot of people's faces if it turns out that Chuck Jenkins might not have had the smoking gun against him that was originally thought, right? A lot of people, you know, because Chuck Jenkins is a very political guy around here. He is the constitutional, conservative Frederick County sheriff. And his adversaries would have wanted a lot of people to believe that this indictment was going to be the downfall of the Frederick County sheriff. And you know what? You had to let the chips fall where they may, right? It's very important to let the process play out. And now that the process is playing out, you know, we're about 9-10 months into this situation, it appears that this smoking gun situation that was prior thought to be the case might not be, right? Maybe a lot of this is just smoke and mirrors, sort of. And so it's important to let these things play out. It's important not to rush to judgment and let the facts fall where they may. Chuck Jenkins and Robert Krop could very well maybe on the losing end of this judicial case, right? That could happen. Maybe there could be jail time. I don't know. But just as equally, this case could fall apart, and it might. And a lot of people out there might just have to accept the fact that this case was not what it was chalked up to be. Now, anytime you drop a federal indictment, that is a big deal, right? So for the fact that you even have a prosecutor hinting at the idea that there is a possibility that if Krop's trial goes sideways, you know, we might just throw the whole case out against Jenkins. To me, that says something, and I hope it says something to you guys as well. You have to read between the lines sometimes. It's very important to do that. But nonetheless, we have that breaking news today that December of this year, Robert Krop is expected to go to trial, and then possibly, if he is convicted of that charge, Chuck Jenkins could then be going to federal court in January 2025, January 27th to be exact, to face similar charges. So again, guys, we have trial dates. We have been waiting for those for some time. And it's a fast-moving case. There are a lot of moving parts to it. And we're going to see where it goes. And we're going to treat it fairly and honestly and respectfully. So with that, Levi Trumbull reporting in Frederick County, Maryland.